State of New Mexico versus Luis Antonio Talamantes Romero, case number E202, CR 2021-1239, entries of appearance.
Bruce Staley on behalf of the state.
And Kathleen Reinhardt on behalf of Luis Talamantes.
Should I turn on the video for this one, or do you want to do it on the, is there a video card? All right, so we're here for sentencing. State, are you ready to proceed?
We are, Your Honor.
And defense attorney?
We are.
All right, so State, you may begin.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, we are here today for sentencing on the defendant, Mr. Talamantes. He, as you know, was convicted of first-degree willful and deliberate murder. For sentencing purposes, Your Honor, the alternative count of felony murder, which he was also convicted of, should be vacated for this sentencing. He was also convicted of 2 counts of burglary with firearm enhancements, conspiracy to commit aggravated burglary, attempted armed robbery, tampering with evidence, conspiracy to commit tampering with evidence, and a larceny of $250 or less. The total jurisdiction in front of Your Honor today is life plus 31 years less 1 day, with that larceny, which is a 182-day petty misdemeanor. Judge, I would like to start by going through the defendant's, his criminal background. Starting in 2003, he was arrested by the feds for illegal reentry into this country, and he was deported in 2006. That's notable, Judge, because he does have a history of coming back into this country and committing crimes once he is back in the United States. Starting in 2007, he began a string of domestic violence cases. One, June 27, 2007, August 31st, 2007, he was charged with escape from jail. February 22nd, 2008, he was charged with a DWI, concealing ID, reckless driving. On April 6th of 2008, he was again charged with battery on a household member. April 12th of 2008, he was charged with telephone harassment. And then in 2009, the victim of those previous domestic violences, sometime before 2009, took out an order of protection against him. Subsequent to that order of protection, he was charged with 4 separate counts of violating that order of protection and an aggravated stalking case, an aggravated stalking charge. In 2009, he was charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and a firearm enhancement. He was also charged in 2009 with a second aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, a false imprisonment, receiving, transferring a stolen vehicle, conspiracy to commit, receiving, transferring a stolen vehicle, and receiving a stolen firearm. On February 3rd of 2009, he was charged with a commercial burglary and a larceny and criminal damage to property. On February 11th, he was charged with an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and a firearm enhancement. Also charged that same case with shooting at a dwelling or occupied building and shooting at it from a motor vehicle. He was charged in 2006 federally for entry into the country and was removed in 2012.
You said that was, 2006?
Yes.
Okay.
He was removed from the country. So there was a federal arrest. It doesn't appear that he was removed until 2012. So I'm not sure what the procedural history there was. In Colorado in 2015, there was a misdemeanor arrest for a false report. In 2015, he was charged with auto burglary. In 2015, he was charged federally with an illegal reentry of a removed alien subsequent to an aggravated felony, and he was removed from the country. He came back into the United States, and on November 19th of 2019, which Your Honor is aware, is when he murdered Jackie B. Hill. The federal government charged him subsequent to Jackie's murder, again with illegal reentry. In 2021, he was investigated for a larceny of a firearm and an aggravated burglary. And in 2022, October 29th of 2022, he was charged with possession of methamphetamine and Suboxone while he was in custody on this case. Judge, this defendant has an extensive violent history. His history shows a progression of his crimes, starting with misdemeanor domestic violence, ramping up into possessing firearms, using firearms, shooting firearms, conspiracies, and arrests and charges, being deported, receiving prison time in some of those instances. None of that was a deterrent leading up to Jackie's murder. Despite being arrested over and over, nothing stopped him. Your Honor is aware of the facts of this case, but just to highlight a few things that I think are extremely notable. The burglary that this defendant committed, that he's been convicted of just before he murdered Jackie, shows a brazen attitude. The testimony in this trial was that he brandished his weapon and even pointed it at his victims as they came out on the balcony, catching him in the act. He was undeterred, and that's sort of part of his pattern. He didn't stop burglarizing their vehicle or run away. He instead pointed his firearm at those victims to scare them off and continued about his crime. This jury found him guilty of a premeditated, willful, and deliberate murder. He went up to Jackie, sitting in her car, put his gun up to her head through her window, and executed her. She was what can only be described as a truly innocent victim here. She wasn't doing anything. She didn't provoke anything. She's literally just trying to have some fruit and go to the gym in the morning. You heard from other witnesses in this trial, notably Carla Arguiri, told you that he was not remorseful or even overly emotional until he began to fear being caught. Once he realized who he had killed, that her sons were state police officers, when it was on the news, when his vehicle was on the news, that's when he started to get worried. And his worry escalated into threatening her and into fleeing the state, and eventually with a plan to flee the country. He utilized his family, and we heard jail calls, to help him cover up the crime, to dispose of the gun used, and to dispose of the car that was so distinct in this case. Your Honor, at this time, the state would like to have a few people address the court directly, and we would start with Mr. Sam Behill.
Thank you, Your Honor, for allowing me to say a few words about my wife, Jackie. Before I say anything about her, I would like to sincerely thank the law enforcement, state police, for always being there for us. It's been a long road for those of us that have been dealing with my wife's murder. And they stood by us. They made this rocky road a lot easier to maneuver through. So thank you, and also other law enforcement that might be here. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I just want to say a few words about Jackie, and then I'm probably going to echo a lot about what Greer just mentioned. But if you bear with me, hopefully I can make some sense. My wife Jackie was born in Barranquilla, Colombia, came to this country and became a citizen. Jackie was one proud American. She would tell everyone how proud she was to be an American and how so many opportunities were available to her now. However, Jackie never forgot her family back in Colombia. I always like to tell this story about her. She would go every 3 months or so, pick up one of those shipping boxes that you can get at one of the big box stores. And every Sunday she would look at the journal, the ads that would come, and look for sales, to see what was on sale that she might be able to buy. And she was mainly focused on children's clothes, children's shoes, sandals, things that they could benefit from, her family as well as her friends back in Colombia. She would buy toothbrushes, anything else that she thought would be helpful to them up in Colombia. It would take her about 3 months to fill up that box, which would weigh approximately 60 pounds. She would ship the box to Miami, and from Miami, there was some kind of other carrier that would deliver the box to her family in Barranquilla, Colombia. Her family always looked forward to that. Sometimes it would take her a little bit longer than the 3 months to fill it up. So they would be calling her and asking her, Jackie, where is the box? When are you going to send it? But that's one of the kind of person that she was, you know. Jackie was raised by a family who had strong values and principles for which they lived by. She had dreams a few weeks before she was murdered by this guy here. She wanted to take care of her granddaughter, Emery Grace, and she never got to do that. She was murdered. She had made arrangements at her work to where she would be working 2 days a week. The other 3 days she was going to take care of Emery Grace. You know, that was her dream, you know. She also had many other dreams for herself. She had been going to CNN, the Central New Mexico College, and she would have gotten her 2-year diploma just a few weeks after she was murdered. She never got to see that. She also had other dreams, you know. She had told me that she not only wanted to stop there, she wanted to continue on with her education, go to UNM, get a bachelor's degree in education. That was her whole dream, you know. She always talked about that. She also was kind of I guess you would say, a religious person. She would text prayers every morning to her friends. This was she just faithfully did that on a daily basis. And the reason I mention that is because the day that she was murdered, we looked into her phone, and there was 2 or 3 of the friends that were texting her back, asking why they hadn't received those prayers today, you know. And of course, she was dead, you know. She'd been murdered on that day. I'd like to kind of shift gears, and I think I'm going to probably say a lot of what Greer just said, you know, but I think it's important for me to say it anyway. And, you know, what I want to say is the criminal history of this person goes all the way back to 2006. And I'm going to start here when he was first deported on September 7, 2006. 3 months later, he was back in Albuquerque. December the 6th, he was charged with assault on a household member. December the 15th, again charged with battery on a household member and criminal damage to property. January 27, 2007, domestic violence, criminal damage to property. Then on February 22nd, 2008, DWI, arrested for that. April 16, 2008, battery on household member again. April 12, 2008, telephone harassment. April 14, 2008, battery on a household member. He was deported for the second time on November the 7th of 2008. He was back in Albuquerque on November the 15th of 2008. Same day, charged with aggravated stalking with 4th-degree felony, I believe. November 26th of 2008, charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. June 6th of 2009, charged with assault with a deadly weapon, false imprisonment. January the 6th, 2009, charged with receiving stolen property over $2,500. March 12th, 2009, he was indicted for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, shooting at an occupied building, shooting into or from a moving vehicle. He was sentenced for 8 years, 6 months. He served 4.5 years. He was back, he was released on January the 20th, 2015. Upon release, he was arrested in Colorado for eluding a police officer. True to himself, he was back in Albuquerque on February 26th of 2015. He was charged with auto burglary in Albuquerque. September 5th, 2019, was deported for the 3rd time. On September 30th of 2019, came back in Albuquerque, broke into a truck that was parked just down the street here at the Hyatt Hotel. He obviously caught his hand or fingers and left fingerprints as well as some blood, which was traced back to him. October 13th of 2019, He had an altercation with some other person. He was shooting at this person's car, put some bullet holes in the back of the trunk. Luckily, he didn't kill somebody then, but, you know. October 29th of 2019, he was posting on his Facebook, he was posting the sale of guns, you know, probably guns that he had stolen from that truck that he broke into. November 4th, 2019, again posted photos of himself and the sale of the guns that he had with him. And of course, on November 19th, he murdered my wife, Jackie, for no reason, shooting her in the head execution style, showing no mercy or remorse. Less than 48 hours after he murdered her, he posted a picture on Facebook, making a post as though celebrating, you know, the murder of my wife, showing no mercy, no remorse whatsoever. He has shown no respect for any laws. He, as shown by his, you know, continued criminal history, dating all the way back to 2006, it appears that the only time that he was not committing crimes was when he was incarcerated. My wife Jackie paid the ultimate price. She paid with her life. Your Honor, I ask that that this person be punished rather to the full extent of the law for all charges that the jury found him guilty of. This person should not be allowed to walk the streets of any place on this earth. He should spend the rest of his life behind bars. And that, in my opinion, is the only way to keep communities safe. I ask that the sentences for the crimes that he has been convicted not run concurrently, but that he serve time for each individually. You had a choice to make on November 19th, that morning. You could have walked away. Real men would have walked away. You know, cowards killed innocent women. That was the most heinous murder that I could have ever imagined, or that anybody could imagine. I pray that, you know, that there be some justice for him, for my wife Jackie. Thank you very much. Appreciate you allowing me to talk.
Ms. Daly, before we continue, just to give you some time to check my math here.
Yes.
When I did the calculations, I just counted 31, not 31 and a half, because the larceny was amended down to the petty misdemeanor.
That's right. I have 31 years less 1 day.
Okay.
So it would be, I've written it two ways, Judge. So another way would be 30 and a half plus 182, which gets us to almost 31. Is that the same as what Your Honor has?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure.
It's a little strange with the misdemeanor involved. Judge, next, to address the court, we have Dolores Smith with her daughters Marissa, Maya, and Miranda.
Your Honor, during Jackie's trial, we heard Talamantes here in a phone conversation refer to her as no one. So I'm here to tell you that she's someone. She's someone to everyone who knew her. She was beautiful on the outside, but beautiful on the inside too. She was kind, compassionate, loving, and had a positive outlook on life. She made choices in her life that not only improved her life, but the life of others. She made a choice to study hard and become a citizen of the United States. She made a choice to work and make an honest living. She didn't have to work. My dad could have taken care of her. She made a choice to work hard, and she made a choice to work hard to learn English. She made a choice to pursue a higher education. She wanted to become a teacher. All she wanted to do was work for Albuquerque Public Schools. You took that away. Imagine how many more lives she would have touched and inspired if she had only had the chance to be a teacher. You also had a chance, Talamantes. You were released from prison, and instead of making good choices, you decided to take advantage of good people. Jackie will never get a second chance like you did. And therefore, I ask that Talamantes not receive yet another chance. He has proven over and over time that when given a chance, he will take advantage of law-abiding, hard-working, honest people.
Your Honor, our grandfather is already receiving a life sentence with living his life without his beloved wife, Jackie. We therefore respectfully ask you that Talamantes receive the life sentence as well.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And finally, Your Honor, we have Kevin and Jessica Dieguez who would like to address the court. Hello, Your Honor.
Jacqueline V. Hill is my mother-in-law. And I say is because she will always be. To her, I was Mijita. To me, she was a safe place, not just for me, but for her husband, her kids, and her family back in Colombia. I was so fortunate to have known the love she had to give. But my kids, unfortunately, will never get to experience that. Now only from stories we tell our 3.5-year-old daughter, who only knew her abuela for less than 2 months before she was taken away from us. Every time I think of my daughter's age, I think of how long we've been grieving. That morning in November is one I will never forget. I will never forget my husband's wrenching cry of pain after answering the call that his mother was shot to her death. That is one sound I don't think I will ever have leave my mind. I will never forget my husband's blank stares in silence, shaking his head every now and then, reliving this horror in his mind over and over again. I will never forget feeling helpless, not knowing how to comfort the one you love for losing his first true love. I sat there that week of trial, reliving and facing all the anger I've had towards you, Luis. Because you really took someone so precious to us away. And for what? I really ask that you just give him the sentence, because we're going to be living this for the rest of our lives.
Your Honor, this is just for Luis. You've caused me and my family a lot of pain. Look at me when I'm talking to you. Caused me and my family a lot of pain. You could have just asked her for the car, she would have given it to you. That's the type of person she was. My kids will never get to spend time with their grandmother. And that's what hurts me the most. I really hope that one day you get to feel that same pain. I hope you rot in there. I hope you never get out. But if you do, te voy a estar esperando. Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, we went over the jurisdiction that the court has a little bit. Just for some housekeeping, I've calculated his pre-sentence confinement credit time as well for Your Honor's understanding. He was in federal custody when this case was indicted and was not brought into state custody until November 15th of 2021 when he was physically brought here by the feds. So from November 15th of 2021 to today, we have 562 days of pre-sentence confinement. Your Honor, the family has said it better than I can, but I will just close with the fact that I think is obvious. Jackie did not deserve to be executed in her driveway. She deserved to grow old with her husband, to see her sons and her family's milestones, to be there for weddings and graduations and birthdays and parties and all of the little things that have been taken away from her and her family. She deserved to celebrate all of life's joys, and the defendant robbed her of that. The defendant here showed a complete indifference for human life, and he does not deserve a life outside of prison walls. Therefore, the state is respectfully requesting, Your Honor, that you sentence him to life plus 31 years less 1 day. Thank you.
Just to begin, Your Honor, I want to say that we respect, we respect the pain and grief that the Hill family is going through. I hope they understand that this has been a regrettable tragedy. I will tell the court and everyone here that my client, despite being convicted at trial last month, still maintains his innocence. I believe the bulk of the sentence that the court could impose is mandated by law, and I think that certainly the court is going to do that. We would ask the court to run these counts concurrently. Mr. Talamantes is a 35-year-old man, and the murder charge alone will take up most of the balance of his potential life. Likewise, Judge, I think we would ask the court for credit, pre-sentence confinement credit, to include all of the time since he was arrested until today's date. And with respect to the felony murder charge, we would agree that that count should be vacated or merged at the very least with respect to sentencing. And that is essentially what we're going to ask for, Judge. Thank you.
Ms. Reinhardt, does your client wish to address the court?
I don't believe he wants to make a statement.
Okay. So I don't believe that I have a lot of discretion as far as how I'm sentencing Mr. Talamantes Romero. He has already been convicted on the charge out of Texas, so I think once we're done here, he's actually going to be transported back there where they're going to have primary jurisdiction, so he's going to serve that count first. I'm also not going to be able to run this concurrent to that charge, and so he's not going to come back to New Mexico until he's done serving the sentence, because I can't wait for him to be sentenced there before transferring back here. I don't think anybody's asking for that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run some of these concurrent, but most of the way that I'm structuring this is thinking about the charges that ran together, the events that ran together, and then not necessarily looking at this as merger, but looking at this as each event, which I think deserves a different sentence or a different punishment for each of them. The charge that will run first will be the first-degree murder. That's count 1 for willful and deliberate. I will vacate the felony murder conviction, which was an alternate to count 1. I will then have him serve the aggravated burglary, which is 9 years plus the firearm enhancement. That will run concurrent to count 5, which was the attempt to commit armed robbery. And so those two will run concurrently for 10 years. Count 3 will then run next, which is the aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. That's 9 years plus the firearm enhancement of 1 year. He will then serve the conspiracy to commit aggravated burglary with a deadly weapon, which was the conspiracy that he served with Isaac. This is one of those cases where I don't think the conspiracies merged together because I think that each of them was a distinct act. And so that will run next. Count 5, as I had mentioned, is running concurrent to count 2. Count 6, or he will then serve his sentence on count 6, which will run concurrently with count 6 is the tampering with evidence for either dismantling the firearm or cleaning and dismantling to an extent the gold Jeep Cherokee. Those two charges, or that charge will run concurrently with the conspiracy charge, so that will run concurrently for 3 years. And the final charge is the larceny charge. And I think that one is actually just 6 months as opposed to 6 months minus 1 day because it is a petty misdemeanor. So the way that I count it, he'll be serving 26.5 years after he does the life sentence for the first degree murder charge. Anything further from the state?
Just to clarify, Judge, count 5 will run concurrent to count 2, and count 6 will run concurrent to count 7?
Yes.
Okay, and your Honor is not finding a merger, you're just running those concurrent?
Yes.
Okay, understood.
There is no request for a merger. Anything further from the state?
No, Your Honor.
And from defense?
No, ma'am, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We are in recess.